dreams. Every question finds its gleam. Wherever she goes, answers will follow. Into the depths or up high in the hollow. Curiosity calls, she's ready to find solutions to everything on her mind.
Well, hello everyone. How's it going? It sure doesn't feel like Wednesday already. How is everyone? I hope you're doing well. I've had a very busy weekend. Lots of things have happened. Trying to get through them. Brain is rather scrambled, but I am here again. You're here again. We're all here again. So, last week, we did go through chapters 3 and 4. They were rather short chapters, actually. The first, chapter 3, was the Oath of Initiation. It was called of an unidentified secret order. I think it was it looked like the Jesuits, a Jesuit order. In my opinion, I'm not certain, but that's kind of how it read to me. There was, yes, here, I'll just read this quick excerpt. I do further promise and declare that I will, when opportunity presents, make and wage relentless war, secretly and openly, against all heretics, Protestants, and Masons, as I am directed to do, to extirpate them from the face of the whole earth, and that I will spare neither age, sex, or condition, and that will hang, burn, waste, boil, flay, strangle, and bury alive these infamous heretics, rip up the stomachs and wombs of their women, crush their infants' heads against the walls in order to annihilate their execrable race. When the same cannot be done openly, I will secretly use the poisonous cup, the strangulation cord, the steel of the poniard, or the leaden bullet, regardless of the honor, rank, dignity, or authority of the persons, whatever may be their condition in life, either public or private, as I at any time may be directed to do so by any agents of the Pope or Superior of the Brotherhood of the Holy Father of the Society of Jesus. So that's just a little part of, tiny little part of their oath. It's pretty awesome, though. They are determined, in secret or in public, however it works best for their purposes, to wipe off the face of the earth anyone who is not them, basically. Like I said, I believe this is a Jesuit oath, which would make sense. They're working for the Pope. The Pope is their almighty. I know that's kind of a pun, but anyways. So yeah, that's what they're meant to do. That's the oath, part of the oath they take. The second, well, chapter 4 was the Secret Treaty of Verona, and this was actually in 1916, and it was a congressional record of the Senate. Definitely, because the title page says it's, or sorry, not of the Senate. It says it's the Senate in 1916. Oh, goodness. And now I've lost it. See, that's what happens when you put page markers in there. All right. Well, I've lost that page. But the point was there was a second thing that they... Oh, goodness. Okay. Sorry. I lost my pace. Either which way, it was the Secret Treaty of Verona. It was between Austria, France, Prussia, and Russia. It was made in Verona on the 22nd of November, 1822. There were 7 articles in total. But again, they basically acknowledged to each other that they would work together in secret or in public to make sure that they can have control over America. Just the very beginning, the undersigned specially authorized to make some additions to the Treaty of the Holy Alliance after having exchanged their respective credentials, and they have agreed as follows. So this was the American Diplomatic Code 1778 to 1884. So this was back. Sorry, I keep losing my mind this morning. Oh goodness. Let me do chat first. Just wipe that away. You did receive your notification. That was awesome, Cynthia. So YouTube is working sometimes. Dom is here. I am alive. Thank you very much. Gemstone is here. There's an oath called the Supreme Oath of the Jesuits, and it's very similar and just as evil to that one. And Dom saying use different color post-it notes. One color for hard stops and another color for movable stops. I will actually, I'm starring that so I can come back after and get that. Yeah, I wasn't thinking. I think I showed you guys the other day. I have my main bookmark, which is just the liner of a panty liner because it works so well. And then I had little pieces of a ripped up one. But when you pick up the book, and sometimes the pieces fall out. So, of course, they fell out, and that's okay. Because if you really, really want to know, you can always go back and watch the last episode. There's some self-promotion for me. Give you just enough to know that you want to go back and listen to the whole thing. Oh, my goodness. Either way, we saw just how early and how insidious the global powers that be were at gaining control of the country of America before America was even fully a country. Thank you, Dom. Drop me a note on the Discord so I don't forget. You say so I don't have to star. I starred, but I might forget anyways. My brain is really not doing well today. But Chapter 5. The title is Goodbye USA, Hello New World Order. The backbone of hidden government subversion of the balance of power. The plan to suspend the Constitution and declare martial law. And the quote is, it could probably be shown by facts and figures that there are no distinctly Native American criminal class except Congress. And that was Mark Twain in 1885. And that's it's pretty apt. This whole thing. Pay careful attention as I'm reading it today, because we can see how this starting here. We can see it reflected in the world today, and just how it's. All the stars stay there, but if I star a whole bunch of comments, then I have to go through all the stars too. So it'll be there, but so this shows how that Treaty of Verona worked its way into how America, even in its birth and in infancy, just how much it had already gotten in and gotten its tendrils into this system. Here we go. The balance of power. When our forefathers wrote the Constitution of these United States, they provided safeguards against despotism by providing a balance of power. The Constitution was set up to provide clear divisions of legislative, judicial, and executive powers. It was believed that this system would ensure that if one branch got out of hand, the other two would act to keep the one in check. This balance of power was predicated upon the assumption that none of the three branches could or would infringe upon the power of the others. Think of AOC and her attempt to get some of your Supreme Court justices pulled. Um, the reason they built it up with the three separate divisions is so that sort of thing can't happen. And the fact that she can even make an attempt at it shows just how far America has fallen, which is very scary because you guys are the bastion of freedom. I love Canada. I would never want to be anything other than Canadian. Um, that being said, government, our government from the start was not set up thinking of the Canadian people. Yours was, and it had safeguards built in to help protect from that. Different historical events during that same time, signing of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and whatnot, events happened that changed the way America formed or put those things into use. So it was perfect in paper, but very soon thereafter, things got polluted. The globalist powers who had already been working for, hundreds, if not thousands of years, um, already had their tendrils in. And things, just for example, like the Titanic, uh, certain very important people died on that boat that were fighting to keep America pure as it was on paper. Because they died on the Titanic, other people got involved, and were able to do a little bit of finagling. Dobbin says the only way you can have a balance of power is when both sides are willing to kill the other side and neither side wants to die. Reference the Cold War. Exactly. Or the nuclear powers, right? Yeah, we're standing. The only reason it became a Cold War was because the two major powers had nuclear capabilities. So you're screwed. If one goes, the whole world goes. Yeah, Cynthia, it was a perfect recipe. And on paper, it was great. It was the people who put it into effect that were flawed, purposefully or being unaware of it. Gemstone says Bill Cooper exposes the Cold War as a complete lie. Russia is in bed with America behind the scenes to feed the industrial complex. Yes. Yes, and yes. We're not there yet, though. So hold your horses. Hello, Peggy. Good to see you. People have gave up their freedom because of fear, and that's exactly how it works. Canada is a prime example of that. Look at what happened with the Freedom Rally and the truckers. People had their bank accounts frozen. And worse, like that poor woman was trampled by horses, by the Royal Canadian Police, trampled. and no one ever did anything. There were so many different reporters that were injured. Nothing came of it. The poor fellows from the Coots, they were, for you Americans, the Gretchen Whitmer faux kidnapping plan set up by the FBI. The Coots 4, very similar situation. There were a whole bunch of guns and stuff found, and the prosecutors, the government through the prosecutors, were trying to say that these guys were trying to start a um, violent event at the Coots Crossing, which is Alberta into the States. Can't remember which state in the States, but West. Either way, they were just recently found guilty, and after 4 years in jail waiting for this to happen, they've got another 6 years each in jail for being set up by the RCMP. So your Gretchen Whitmer guys, they all got off. They were very, very lucky. Our guys, not so much. Two of them, anyway, still have 6 more years each. So Dom says, and I do not believe in Bill Cooper. Never met him. Gemstone says, well, you're listening to his book, so listen carefully. I could do this, can't I? Dom says, Peggy, fear and laziness, not willing to do the work needed to hold on to freedom. And that's exactly it. We're seeing that now. And the youngest generations are hooped if they're going to be forced to become the strong men that we need if we don't do it. And by we, I mean Gen X. It's our time. We're the forgotten generation. We're at the right age and in the right positions right now. We can, if not stop it, we can slow this down. We can definitely help slow this train wreck down. But it's up to us Gen Xers to do something about it. We need to get into our local governments. We need to make the changes in our cities and towns and have the good work move back up and get rid of the rot. We can't, as we are now, unless any of us are in government. Those Gen Xers in government right now, search your hearts, please, because you're ruining this country and you're ruining America and you're ruining in the UK and all of Europe. And yeah, if Gen X doesn't decide to stand up now, then the young generations are hooped. So hello, Squabby. Does anyone know if all the major world leaders have cats? I do not. I don't. Trudeau doesn't strike me as a cat person. If there's a cat in his household, it would be one of the kids, is my guess. But likely if they had cats, it went with his wife. I don't think any cat would actually want to be Trudeau's cat. And they choose their humans. We don't choose them. They choose us, right? So you're stating facts you cannot prove as facts. It is one person's story. All I know is what I can see in my world, not words spouted by others like you. There you go. And that's what we're doing here. We're listening to other people's words so that we can take that information and slot it in with all the other information that we've gotten from our own research. That's key. Don't believe Bill Cooper. Don't believe me. I'm talking out my ass and my memory is Swiss cheese. Go and find out for yourself. Do your own research. This is full of information, but until you go and look into it yourself, you won't know if it's true or false. There's a lot of information in here, but yeah, it's up to you guys to take it and run. If you want to know more, if you want to really see what's going on in the world and in the country of America in particular, you can take this information and expand on it, do more research. But if you just take this information as truth, you're you're screwed before you start. You cannot just believe everything you hear or read, especially in this day and age when we can't even believe our eyes anymore. So if you just take this as writ, that's on your head. My suggestion is always do your own research. Squab says folks who keep birds are far less violent. I don't know that. I will take your word for it for now and do my own research later. Oh shoot, my scrolly button on my mouse is doing funny things again. I scroll down and it scrolls back up. It's a pain in the buttocks. Oh. Oh, Squab said folks who keep birds are far less violent, and Dom said, Squab, yes, they have Haitians deliver them. Shenny, hello. Took me all this time to find you on YouTube, and I was told you weren't live yet. Oh, and you weren't told you were live yet. I gotcha. Well, that's weird. No, I totally did not. I completely forgot about that. Yes, exactly, Squab. I am a boomer, and that's funny. So YouTube is one for one. They got one notification out and they missed one, so that's kind of hard to do. I don't have all that many subscribers to send a notification to. And see, she's two people at this point. One said just subbed, so look, you just grew. Perfect. Thank you so much, Jenny. Now, let me see here. I need this one. And pause there. I just have to do this really quickly. Oops. Here we go. This is how I find out if I remember how to do this. I need to go to lives. I go to this one and that one and that one. Perfect. Save. Look at that. I did it. I did it all on my lonesome. Oh my goodness. There we be. Now, where are you guys? There you guys are. Oh, I see. And then Cynthia got two. So there you go. What can you do? It's YouTube. At least they're letting me play this, right? Like it. I've been sharing my church stuff. So I don't know how they feel about Christians, but I know they don't really like um, globalist stuff being put out. But I guess again, I'm small enough; they don't know about me too much yet. All right. So, and the sun just went behind a cloud. It's very dark in here suddenly. All right, let's get back to it. Um, I'm just going to start again because it was not even a whole paragraph. So, the balance of power. When our forefathers wrote the Constitution of these United States, they provided safeguards against despotism by providing a balance of power. The Constitution was set up to provide clear divisions of legislative, judicial, and executive powers. It was believed that this system would ensure that if one branch got out of hand, the other two would act to keep the one in check. This balance of power was predicated upon the assumption that none of the three branches could or would infringe upon the power of the others. The Constitution is clear on the functions of each of the branches. The legislative will make the laws. The judicial will interpret the law, and the executive will decide policy and enforce the law. This, of course, is the simplest of explanations, but this is not a textbook on government. My intent is to acquaint you with simple basics of the balance of power so that you can then understand how it has been subverted. The legislative, which is the Congress in the form of the House and Senate, is required to publish the laws that are made, and this is done in the Congressional Board and the Federal Register. Pending or passed legislation can be obtained by citizens through their congressmen or from the government printing office. Citizens cannot be held responsible for the law if it is not made available to them. It is paradoxical that the government body most representative of the American citizen is the one that has been most easily subverted. Through PACs, payoffs, pork barrel politics, professional politicians, congressmen who are members of secret societies, and through greed and fear, our representatives and senators quit representing us a long time ago. Congress has tremendous powers, but fails in most cases to exercise even a token amount. How is it that our legislature has allowed and at times encouraged the executive branch to write law? You probably did not know that the president and others in the executive branch of the government can and do write law. This is done in the form of presidential executive orders, National Security Council memos, National Security Decision directives, and National Security directives. NSC memos were broad policy papers in the days after the passage of the National Security Act. NSC memos became narrower and more specific over the years, and the name has varied. Under Kennedy, they were called the National Security Action Memorandums. President Bush has changed the name to National Security Directives. There is a tremendous difference between presidential executive orders, NSC memos, and National Security Decision directives. Presidential executive orders are listed in the Federal Register or presidential findings, which are made known to the House and Senate Intelligence Committees. The most important difference between the presidential executive orders and all the others, no matter what they are called, is that the others do not have to be reported, reviewed, made available to anyone, or even acknowledged that they exist. There is no oversight whatsoever that could maintain a check on the legality of these national security directives. The President and others within the executive branch have used these super secret directives to skirt the balance of power and write law without anyone's knowledge. Justification of the President's power to write law through executive orders stems from the failure of the government to rescind the declaration of martial law during the Civil War. In effect, the United States has been under martial law ever since Lincoln's administration. These NSDs are powerful, hidden, and dangerous tools. They were prolific during the Reagan administration. Over 300 were written, with no more than 50 ever leaking out to undergo public scrutiny. Yet most Americans have never heard of these subversive weapons. They are being used to destroy our Constitution. Pardon me. I believe that everyone should know about this corruption of government. Oh, right. Pardon me. Thank you, Shenny. Don't be a digger. Make sure you switch to the love chat from top chat. Otherwise, you don't get to see everything. So Congress has turned a blind eye to these abuses of executive power. At 3:30 a.m., Saturday, August 4th, 1990, the Senate made it even easier for the executive branch to subvert the Constitution and may have made George Bush the first American king. At that time, on that day, a minority of United States senators, maybe 10 at the most, passed Senate Intelligence Authorization Act for fiscal year 1991, SB 2834. This bill will fundamentally change our constitutional system and threatens to destroy the very foundations of our great nation. Since attention has been focused upon the Middle East crisis, the public and most congressmen know absolutely nothing about this bill. The bill was fraudulently introduced as a reform to prevent future incidents of the abuses brought to light during the Iran-Contra scandal. Instead of preventing future abuses, however, it virtually authorized essentially every abuse. The bill was carefully brought to a vote by Senator Sam Nunn in the dead of night when the opposition was gone. It effectively transfers most authority over to the United States government directly into the hands of George Bush and thus directly into the hands of the secret government. The president, who is presently George Bush, was given the power to initiate war, appropriate public funds, define foreign policy goals, and decide what is important to our national security. In oversight of intelligence activities, Title 7 SB 2834 authorizes the following. It gives the president power to initiate covert actions, which has never before been given to the president. So it gives the president power to initiate covert actions. It prevents Congress from stopping the president's initiation of covert actions. It allows the president to use any federal departments, agencies, or entities to operate or finance a covert operation. It empowers the president to use any other nation or private contractor or person to fund or operate a covert action. It redefines covert actions as operations necessary to support foreign policy objectives of the United States, a definition that is so vague and broad as to be essentially unlimited. For the first time, officially claims the right of the United States to secretly interfere in the internal political, economic, or military affairs of other countries in direct and flagrant violation of international law. It requires that the president prepare and deliver a written finding to the intelligence committees of the Congress, but allows the president to omit extremely sensitive matters, and authorizes the president to claim executive privilege if Congress asks too many questions. That's quite a bit. Hello, OG. Good to see ya. There are no penalties in the bill for violating any of its provisions, including the provision requiring a finding. Why should there be? This bill has literally handed the power of all branches of government to the president on a silver platter. That's kind of important considering who has the potential to be your next president, eh? Kamala is very aptly named. And this bill handed this power to the president back in 91. So, you know, Obama was using all sorts of these. Lord knows how many of these the different presidents have put in since Bush, you know? And the Lord knows what Kamala is, what she will do with those powers. She's basically got the power to overrule and omit things from the other two arms of the government. That's kind of scary. Bush may have been the first American king, but she may be the first American queen to use the powers. President Bush is now truly American King George I. SB 2834 gives Bush the power to use any agency or branch of the government and any appropriated funds from any agency or branch of the government for covert action, even if they were never appropriated for that purpose. The bill effectively prevents any oversight by anyone and allows the executive branch to skirt the law and to escape accountability. This will be done using national security directives. A few examples of past NSD directives that have come to light will help you to understand the seriousness of the matter. They will be listed in the following paragraphs under the heading of the subject matter of the NSDDs. NSDD 84, Safeguarding National Security Information, Secrecy, and this was from 3/11/83. So that's March 11th, I think. Or you guys do it backwards, right? Yeah, so that's March. Either way, this was done in 84, declassified in full. Subject: this directive drastically expands the restrictions on government employees' freedom of speech. Those with access to classified information were required to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Those with access to a special category of classified information were made to agree to pre-publication review of any future writings. The use of polygraphs was authorized. Purpose: prevent disclosure of information that could damage national security. The consequences: the polygraph requirement was rescinded due to congressional opposition. Secrecy restrictions were imposed on more than 4 million government employees and contractors for more than 50 executive agencies. Many reporters' contacts were shut down. Government's employees' unions and members of Congress sued to protect the rights of whistleblowers, and the Supreme Court recently sent the case back to the district level for review. Author's note: NSDD 84 indicates that John Lear, Robert Lazar, Bruce Maccabee, Stanton Friedman, Clifford Stone, and many others may be active government agents. They were all working in government jobs or for government contractors, and all of them were subject to this executive order. NSDD 84 was not used to silence them, which seems to indicate that they had executive approval in each and every instance. NSDD 17, Deterring Cuban Models and Covert Action in Nicaragua, and this is 11/23/81, classified. The subject: Central Intelligence Agency was given authority to create the Contras and work with foreign governments as appropriate to undermine the Sandinista government of Nicaragua. Let's have a sip. Hello, Dorothy. How you doing, hon? Yeah, that's like writing and thinking and speaking all at the same time too, Dorothy. Looking at the camera and talking to the microphone when you read. Can you hear that? Yes, I was born in 81. I was actually born in 79. So I was born in the best decade. I was a kid in the best decade to be a kid in. And I was a child, or I was a teenager in the best decade to be a teenager in. My parents timed it perfectly. Now I do notice that I am having internet issues. It says StreamYard. Oh, close that. That helped. Do 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 do. Close that. Oh, that helped a little bit better. All right, you were born in 84. You think you bested better to you? I don't know. My brother was 81. Um, the last best. Yeah. You were born in 78. Nice. So you know exactly where we're at. We definitely were the best of the best. No matter what you have to say, Dorothy. You're a millennial, I think. Actually, we had the discussion because everyone disagrees what year is the cutoff between them. And I think the best definition of the difference between a Gen Z, or sorry, a Gen X and a millennial is Gen X. We we lived in a time when there were no computers. We lived in a time when we were sent out of the house but first thing in the morning, and we weren't allowed to come back home until the streetlights turned on. And there was no such thing as social media or political correctness. Now, millennials, on the other hand, are those who were born and raised in the participation awards. So if you grew up with participation awards and all sorts of pads and stuff when you were playing different sports, you're a millennial. Gen Xers, we played without pads. We didn't have computers and cell phones and all sorts of craziness. We had to go outside and make our own fun. Yeah, see, Darth, everyone disagrees on 80, 81, 83. So I figure if you had participation awards, you're a millennial. If you didn't, you're a Gen Xer. Because my brother's definitely Gen X, even though he's 81. So you didn't get your first computer till you were like 13. Yeah, never had any of it. See, so yeah, if you didn't have if you weren't getting participation awards, then you're a Gen Xer. Well, we had some pads, but not like the pads of today. Um, and I was thinking more of the street hockey. We didn't have pads for street hockey, that sort of stuff. Playing in the backyard. Yeah, see, my dad was lucky. He worked for a wonderful company called Prax Air. And when IBM first put out their very first ever PC, um, the Prax Air Union Carbide, they bought every single employee a PC for their home. And that's a lot. That's a lot of PCs. That's a huge company. It's gone through many other iterations and names. Um, but yeah, they bought every single employee a PC. So my brother and I, we had a PC as soon as they came out, and we were so, so lucky for that. Um, it was amazing. You didn't own your first computer till you were 49. Well, I bought my first personal computer. I was 21, but I bought it for my business. I had my own company. Um, so it wasn't really mine. Your goalies had pads, but not of protecting themselves. The pads were for protecting the damn goal. Yeah, yeah. See, we had, oh, I don't have it right now, but throw pillows and stuff that were duct taped. It was more to give you more, yeah, coverage in the goal than it was to actually protect you. I don't remember any of us putting um, helmets on to play street hockey. There were no knee pads when we were running around playing basketball on the cement courts. There wasn't any of that. So, so now we're getting into the Iran Contra stuff. So So NSDD 17, we just read that, deterring Cuban models and covert action in Nicaragua. Blah. So the Central Intelligence Agency was given authority to create the Contras and work within foreign governments as appropriate to undermine the Sandinista government of Nicaragua. Bleh. To stop the flow of arms from Cuba and Nicaraguan sources to the Salvadorian rebels. The consequences were the CIA was given 19 million to assemble and arm a force of 500 Contras to join with 1,000 exiles already being trained by Argentina. Scores of operatives arrived in Honduras. Arms shipments from Miami began. The Contra War was set in motion. NSDD 77, Management of Public Diplomacy Relative to National Security, which was 11483, disclassified in full. The subject, this directive set up several planning groups to conduct public diplomacy activities. It ordered organizational support for foreign governments and private groups to encourage the growth of democratic political institutions and practices. The purpose was to mobilize international and domestic support for our national security objectives. The consequences, it created propaganda ministries in the National Security Council, the State Department, and the White House that concentrated on, in the words of NSC staff member in charge of the program, gluing black hats on the Sandinistas and white hats on the UNO, or the Contras United Nicaraguan Opposition. Stories were planted in the press, journalists were pressured. The General Accounting Office later found that these activities violated the law banning covert propaganda inside the United States. How many other covert propaganda programs do you think are operating against American citizens? I can assure you that there were many more than you would ever believe. Nicaragua. I'm not having trouble with the first two. It's the last two syllables. Yes, Jack hockey. Yes, there's a reason I played goal. And for a while there, we were all on rollerblades too. So NSD 138 is the international terrorism that was on 4384 and it's classified. The subject, the directive endorsed the principle of preemptive strikes and retaliatory raids against terrorists and called on 26 federal agencies to recommend specific measures to combat terrorism. The purpose was to lessen international terrorism and free U.S. hostages in Lebanon. While this NSD directive pretends to be concerned about international terrorism, it is really a thinly disguised authorization of preemptive strikes and retaliatory raids against patriots in this country. When FEMA is activated, patriots will be rounded up in the dead of night, most likely on a national holiday such as Thanksgiving. Government agents and law enforcement officers in every city across the nation have received anti-terrorist training under this NSDD directive, and I can assure you the target is patriots. The consequences. Set up the terrorist incident. The consequences was set up the terrorist incident working group under North in the NSC. Its first major action was the interception and capture of the Achilles Lauro hijackers, which gave North's career an important boost. Either NSDD 138 or a subsequent NSD directive on terrorism authorized the training of 3 Lebanese units for preemptive strikes. When problems arose, Director of Central Intelligence William Casey took the operation off the books and enlisted Saudi Arabian help in an attempt to assassinate the head of Hezbollah. A resulting car bombing killed about 80 in Beirut. Sheikh Fadlallah. I am so sorry, sir. You died there, and I just butchered your name. Oh no, he didn't. Oh good. Sheikh Fadlallah was the target, but he was unhurt. So they killed 80 other people, but he was unhurt. The U.S. military, along with civilian law enforcement teams, conducted joint anti-terrorist training across America. To allay public fears, the participants wore civilian clothing. Oh, good. Hello, Stingy. Falafel, yeah. Surprised I didn't come out with that one. Boy, I'm glad he survived. I mean, I'm sure he's dead now, but I feel really bad about that. Oh my goodness. And yeah, to allay public fears, the participants wore civilian clothing. Well, that's good. That's good. So they're conducting joint anti-terrorist training all across America with civilian law enforcement teams, but they're keeping those people in civilian clothing so that the civilians don't get worried. Or maybe so we don't clue into that actually happening. So NSD directives have become the de facto legislative vehicle of the national security state. It has become known through the research of Susan Fitzgerald, a research consultant at the Fund for Constitutional Government in Washington, who has collected declassified NSD directives, that many were released without the White House letterhead at the top of the page and without the president's signature at the bottom. Interesting. This, she speculates, is to conceal the fact that the signatures on some of them would reveal that they had been made by AutoPen, not by Ronald Reagan's own hand. That should give you a taste of what we're up against. Please understand that virtually all but a very few NSD directives still remain classified. And unless the public forces disclosure, their effect will probably never be known. Now think about that. All the way over here in 2024. So the CIA set a car bomb that killed 80. Yep. And they did it using one of these secret presidential directives that don't need his signature. Somewhere within the volumes of secret NSD directives, there is a plan to suspend the Constitution of the United States of America. The existence of this plan surfaced during the Iran-Contra hearings. Congressman Jack Brooks, who is a Democrat from Texas, attempted to bring it into the open. When he asked Colonel North directly if North had ever helped draft a plan to suspend the Constitution, Brooks was silenced by the committee chairman, Senator Daniel K. Inouye? Oh, there's another one. Who is a Democrat from Hawaii. I am sorry, sir. Senator I stated that the subject dealt with national security and any questions regarding the matter could be brought up during a closed-door session. Well, we know all about those closed-door sessions. We never learned the outcome. I would like to know who gave anyone in any branch of government with any title the right to suspend the Constitution at any time for any reason under any conditions. I believe that the plan to suspend the Constitution is directly tied to the underground facility called Mount Weather and to the Federal Emergency Management Agency known as FEMA. Mount Weather is so shrouded in secrecy that 99.9% of Americans have never heard of it. FEMA, however, is another story. Remember Hurricane Hugo? Remember the federal agency FEMA that was sent to handle the emergency and was thrown out by the citizens because of gross incompetence? I don't remember that, but par for the course, right? Yes, Bill Cooper does cover the plan to destroy America in a series called Majesty 12. Mighty and I will touch on that at some point on our Tuesday evening streams once we finish with the Mystery Babylon series. We may go in and do individual stories of things that Mr. Cooper covered, like aliens or JFK, 9/11. He did multiple videos on his radio program about these different subjects. So Mighty and I haven't discussed quite yet we're finally halfway through Mystery Babylon, so we'll have to figure it out eventually. But Majesty 12 is one of his series that we will be touching on at some point. He said he saw Majesty 12 documents while in the Navy. Yes, he got to see a lot of documents while in the Navy, which he'll touch on in here. He'll also touch on whether or not he believes them all. I'll just leave it at that for now. So this is fun because now we're getting into FEMA. Now we're getting into I love Mount Weather. I think it's an amazing complex. I would be thrilled to be able to go and take a tour through there or exist in there for a week or two. The place is just absolutely amazing. He did say here, Mount Weather is so shrouded in secrecy that 99.9% of Americans have never heard of it. At this point, now in 2024, I think a lot of people have heard of it. I think they had to do that on purpose. Word was getting out, and in order to keep as much secrecy as possible, they had to come out and give the public something. There was a beautiful TV series done called Jericho. I loved that series. And they actually used Mount Weather. A bunch of them lived in Mount Weather in that series. It was very, very cool, very interesting. So a lot of people know about Mount Weather now. That being said, we only know what they want us to know. I'm sure there is so much more that we don't know. And from 91 to 2024, the innovations and advancements in all sorts of tech, they're using the secret stuff that they haven't released to public use, right? So I can only imagine the amazing stuff they've got going on in there now. Yeah, one of my dream vacations would be to go and spend a week or two in Mount Weather, crazy as that may sound. Nobody loves a femur more than Dahmer. Yes. FEMA, that's what we were talking about. And we all know about FEMA. So, Hurricane Hugo, FEMA was incompetent because emergency management is just a guise for its real purpose, which is to take over local, state, and federal government in case of a national emergency. The only way FEMA could do such a thing is if the Constitution were suspended and martial law were to be declared. Therefore, its very existence is proof positive that a plan to suspend the Constitution does in fact exist. Mount Weather. Just outside a sleepy little town called Bluemont, Virginia, about 46 miles west of Washington, D.C., is an area of wilderness covering what is being called the toughest granite rock in the eastern United States. The area is surrounded by signs marked restricted area, and this installation has been declared a restricted area. Unauthorized entry is prohibited. Other signs state all persons and vehicles entering Huron are liable to search. Photographing, making notes, drawings, maps, or graphic representations of this area or its activities is prohibited. Such material found in possession of unauthorized persons will be confiscated. Internal Security Act of 1950. The installation is beneath a mountain, and its name is the Western Virginia Office of Controlled Conflict Operations. Its nickname is Mount Weather. It was ordered to be built by the Federal Civil Defense Administration, which is now the Federal Preparedness Agency. I don't know what it is now in 2024. I'm sorry. Mount Weather was designed in the early 50s as part of a civil defense program to house and protect the executive branch of the federal government. The official name was the Continuity of Government Program. Congress has repeatedly tried to discover the real purpose of Mount Weather, but so far has been unable to find out anything about the secret installation. Retired Air Force General Leslie W. Bray, director of the Federal Preparedness Agency, told the Senate Subcommittee on Constitutional Rights in September of 1975, I am not at liberty to describe precisely what is the role and the mission and the capability that we have at Mount Weather or at any other precise location. In June 1975, Senator John Tooney, Democrat from California, and chairman of the Subcommittee on Constitutional Rights, charged that Mount Weather held dossiers on at least 100,000 Americans. He later alleged that the Mount Weather computers, described as the best in the world, can obtain millions of pieces of additional information on the personal lives of American citizens simply by tapping the data stored at any of the other 96 federal relocation centers. I know from my stint with the Office of Naval Intelligence that these dossiers consist of information collected about American patriots, men and women who are most likely to resist the destruction of our Constitution and the formation of the totalitarian police state under the New World Order. The Patriot Data Bank is constantly updated so that when the appointed hour arrives, all patriots can be rounded up with little, if any, effort. The plan calls for this to be accomplished in the dead of night on a national holiday. The most likely holiday is Thanksgiving, when everyone, no matter the religion, race, or creed, will be at home. The targets will be ripe for the picking after a heavy meal and maybe some alcoholic beverages, and during a deep sleep. There is a traitor in the Patriot movement who provides the secret government with accurate names and addresses of patriots who will fight to protect and defend the Constitution. My recommendation is that no patriot should ever be at home or at the home of any family member on any holiday ever again until the traitors have been hung and the Constitution restored as the supreme law of the land. Well, that's asking a lot now that we're here in 2024. Apparently now it's the High Point Special Facility. Thank you. Alex Jones. Yeah, I'm sure he's one of them. Although I don't know how many real patriot groups would allow him to know much. Some sources state that Mount Weather is virtually an underground city complete with dormitories, private apartments, streets, sidewalks, cafeterias, hospitals, water purification systems, power plant, office buildings, a lake fed by fresh water from an underground springs, a mass transit system, and many other astounding things. Several disturbing facts emerge when one researches Mount Weather. One is the conclusion that a complete parallel government exists at the site. 9 federal departments exist there: Agriculture, Commerce, HEW, HUD, Interior, Labor, State, Transportation, and the Treasury. Apparently, at least 5 federal agencies are also in residence: the FCC, Selective Service, the FCC, Selective Service, Federal Power Commission, Civil Service Commission, and the Veterans Administration. 2 privately owned corporations have offices at Mount Weather: the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Post Office. There is also an office of the presidency. What makes all this upsetting is that there is a president and a complete set of cabinet officers in residence at Mount Weather. Who are they and who appointed them? Where is such a thing provided for in the Constitution of the United States of America? Mount Weather is the operational center, or the hub, of over 96 other underground federal relocation centers scattered across the United States. The majority of these appear to be concentrated in Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, and in North Carolina. Each of these facilities contain computer data banks holding information not on enemy agents, Soviet diplomats, or suspected terrorists, but on American citizens and patriots. A list of other files kept at the facilities was furnished to the Subcommittee on Constitutional Rights in 1975. The list included military installations, government facilities, communications, transportation, energy and power, agriculture, manufacturing, wholesale and retail services, manpower, financial, medical and educational institutions, sanitary facilities, population, housing, shelter, and stockpiles. The committee concluded that these databases operate with few, if any, safeguards or guidelines. Senator James Aberzak, who is a Democrat from South Dakota, a member of the subcommittee, said, "I feel the entire operation has eluded the supervision of either Congress or the courts." Chairman Tooney said, "Mount Weather is out of control." Nothing was done by Congress to rectify the situation, however, and Mount Weather remains out of control. Former high-level officials for Mount Weather agree that the base at Mount Weather is much more than any standby government facility or storage center for the preservation of records. They describe it as the actual government in waiting. "We do not merely store essential information. The facility attempts to duplicate the vital functions of the executive branch of the administration. As stated above, according to my research, this includes a president and all cabinet members actually in residence. Protocol even demands that subordinates address them as Mr. President or Mr. Secretary. Most of these mysterious appointees have held their positions through several administrations. We just act on the orders of the president in national emergencies," said one former Mount Weather official. The FPA, in its 1974 annual report, stated that studies conducted at Mount Weather involved the control and management of domestic political unrest, where there are material shortages, such as food riots, or in strike situations, where the FPA determines that there are industrial disruptions and other domestic resource crises. The report states that the bureaucracy at Mount Weather invokes what it calls civil crisis management. Officials who were at Mount Weather and who have furnished us with data say that during the 1960s, the complex was actually prepared to assume certain governmental powers at the time of the 1961 Cuban Missile Crisis and the assassination of President Kennedy in '63. The source said that the installation used the tools of its civil, goodness me, tongue twisting. Smoked out prods. You didn't know any of this. Neither did I. I'm reading this because this is an important book and I have never read it all. So I figured I better find out what it's saying. Now, again, do your own research. I cannot guarantee that what's in here is all true or all false. So take it with a grain of salt and do your own research. Thanks. Nice to see you too, Smoked Out Prods. Peggy says, "Many years ago, a friend was mayor of a small town. Federal government offered the town money for bike lanes, sidewalls, etc. The deal the town had to turn over the control. Oh, the deal was the town had to turn over control of their police department." Yeah. See, Canada's a little different too. There aren't a lot of cities or towns, at least, that have their own police department. We have the RCMP, which is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. They are our version of the FBI. Okay. But they control almost every police office in the country. There are a few very large cities that have their own police force as well. Vancouver has its own police force as well. Surrey does, although I think they're losing it again. I'm not sure. But for the most part, if you go into any small town, like the small town I live in, we don't have our own police force. We have the RCMP. And what that means is there's 4 RCMP officers on the road at any given time, but they cover a large group of small towns and cities. So, yeah, we don't really get as much police coverage as we would necessarily like in these days. But a lot of towns and cities, especially, I would say the 90s and early 2000s, were being given these similar offers. And because they didn't have the money to fix their infrastructure, a lot of these places took it. So now it looks like a lot of these American cities, they still have their own police force, but they don't actually have control. Like, their police officers aren't in control. So you've got to be aware of that. And yeah, it went on in every town. Like I said, they didn't have to do that in Canada because we've got the RCMP, so they already have full control. But we also in Canada, we have our own version of FEMA camps, and they are all across the country as well. I wouldn't be surprised if there's tunnels all under Canada, just like there are in America. Um, OG says, I keep having dreams I am being attacked by a bear. Do you think that's a premonition of a Russian attack? I don't know. Do you have a dog or a cat that may come and jump on you while you're sleeping? Give you a good cuddle? I think that might be a little bit more likely. That being said, if Russia's going to attack, if they were to attack, they would do it. They'd have to get a land, or they would have to have a land mass that they could form up on, and that would be BC. So I will let you know if Russia decides to attack North America. They will be putting up in my province, and I will hear about it, and I'll let you know. Okay. Pardon me. All right. So the source said that the installation used by the tools of its civil crisis management program on a standby basis during the 1967 and 1968 urban riots and during a number of national anti-war demonstrations against the administration by the American people. Daniel J. Cronin, who was the assistant director of the FPA, outlined a massive surveillance and manipulation program that is directed against the American population on a continuing basis. The FPA has organized an impressive armament of resources and equipment. Mr. Cronin described in an interview his agency's attitude towards its wide-ranging surveillance program. We try to monitor situations, he said, and get to them before they become emergencies. No expenses spared in the monitoring program. He cited reconnaissance satellites, local and state police intelligence reports, and law enforcement agencies of the federal government as examples of the resources available to the FPA for information gathering. The only document that I was able to find that attempts to outline some of the statutory authority of Mount Weather is Executive Order 11490. It was drafted by General George A. Lincoln, former director of the Office of Emergency Preparedness, which preceded the FPA, and it was signed into law by President Nixon in October 1969. Executive Order 11490 superseded Executive Order 11051, signed on October 2nd of 1962 by President Kennedy. So Kennedy's order used the language, whereas national preparedness must be achieved, as many may be required to deal with increases in international tension with limited war, or with general war including attack upon the United States. Nixon's order began, whereas our national security is dependent upon our ability to assure continuity of government at every level in any national emergency type situation that might conceivably confront the nation. So Nixon deleted any reference to war, to imminent attack, and to general war from the order and replaced them with the phrase during any emergency that might conceivably occur. So he broadened it and made it possible for them to do whatever they wanted in there. And remember, this was Nixon's was in 1969. So we're in 2024, and you've had a lot of presidents since Nixon. What all shenanigans have they been playing without anyone's knowledge? So Nixon's order, which is the one in effect today, as of 1991 when he was writing this, Nixon's order allows the government in the form of FEMA to suspend the Constitution for literally any reason they decide to call a national emergency. I cannot find a plan or executive order anywhere which outlines any procedure or allowance for the restoration of the Constitution after a national emergency has ended. This leads to the obvious conclusion that no restoration of the Constitution is contemplated or desired by those in power. In 1975, Senator Turney expressed concern, saying, "We know from what we've heard in the press that 15,000 names were being maintained by the FBI for detention in an emergency. We also know that the IRS had its files on individual taxpayers. We know that the CIA had their Operation Chaos and that the NSA has the records of conversations that have been intercepted electronically. My question is this: is there anyone like yourself, General Bray, that is in control of the overall access to this data if it is maintained in a relocation site?" And your answer, as I understood it, is no. Turney continued, "General Bray, I must say that I still don't know who's in control of these relocation centers. You say you don't have that knowledge, and still we don't know from the 3 witnesses that we had here today that they had information as to who has control of those centers." "I am not at liberty," Bray answered, "to describe precisely what is the role and the mission and the capability that we have at Mount Weather or at any other precise location. I firmly believe that our continuity of government program has not provided continuity at all, but has been the instrument for discontinuing open and democratic government, and that the very program designed to protect Americans has actually been turned against us." And another quote, "We at the executive level here were active in either OSS, the State Department, or the European Economic Administration. During those times, and without exception, we operated under directions issued by the White House. We are continuing to be guided by just such directives, the substance of which were to the effect that we should make every effort to so alter a life in the United States as to make possible a comfortable merger with the Soviet Union." And that's H. Rowan Gaither, president of the Ford Foundation, 1953. Well, Nixon's executive order, I'm sure, like this was written in 91, Cynthia, right? So I'm sure between 91 and now, Nixon's executive order has been polished and fine-tuned and squeaked and tapped and tweaked. And then, of course, we can't forget 9/11, right? And all the powers that the Patriot Act gave them. Like what we just read about here is nothing compared to what the Patriot Act gave them. And the Patriot Act has been tweaked and fine-tuned since. So who knows? Who knows how many of these orders have been put out? I do not trust Bush. I don't trust Clinton or Obama. I sure don't trust Kamala with powers like that, what they could potentially get up to. Not that I want to get that out there. I don't trust Trump any further than I could toss him either. I think he's just as dirty as the rest of them. I think the only thing he's got going for him is the fact that he wants America to be the number one in control of the global New World Order. And because of that, he is going to be the best hope for Western civilization. That being said, I think he's just as dirty as the rest of them. Here in Canada, I've been saying for years now, our next Prime Minister will be Pierre Poilievre. He is basically woke light Trudeau. He is exactly the same as Trudeau, only instead of working for the WEF, he works for the UN. In my province of BC alone, they just recently passed a bill that gives the UN power to take control of any property, any land, anywhere. They can knock down buildings, they can kill off livestock, they can do whatever they need to do in a pandemic or national emergency to any citizen, and there is no recompense. Citizens do not get anything for it. They just get told, fuck you, and you're gone. If you want to complain about it, there's no legal recourse whatsoever. And the UN then has control of your property forevermore. So, yeah, the UN is just as dangerous as the WEF. All the globalist factions are equally dangerous. None of them want the best for the citizens of their countries. OG, you're going to go lay down, probably fall asleep, but you're going to listen in. Okay, thank you so much. You sleep well, OG. Linda says, sorry, fell asleep and just woke up. So there you go. You can go to sleep, OG. Linda's waking up. Gemstone says that's dangerous, and it is. Cynthia says they've been polishing and tweaking ever since. Exactly. We don't have access to any of those executive orders, so who knows what they say now. Exactly. And Mount Weather was put into effect in 1950s, right? So you got to remember that there's an entire shadow government. When people talk about the deep state, in my opinion, this is the deep state. The people running the alternate U.S. government in Mount Weather, I believe, are the ones who control the deep state because they don't have terms. They don't get voted in or out. They're there until they choose to leave or retire or die, right? Like, it is not the same as the public American government that most people know and expect would be in control. These guys in Mount Weather have been the real ones in control ever since. There is a rumor that this is conspiracy theory, okay? This is me telling you a conspiracy theory I heard. I have no idea if this is true. I highly doubt it is, okay? But apparently at some point during Obama's term, there was a military coup, and the people in control of Mount Weather used the military to take over the presidency. And in order to keep his seat, Obama was forced to sign a lot of directives that give the deep state even more power than they already had. So again, that's a conspiracy theory that I have heard. I have not looked into it at all. But the fact that there is this other alternate government of the United States that has been running since 1950s, doing whatever they want, however they want, that's scary, you know? That's an awful lot of presidents who weren't really in control of anything. That would also help me to understand why Trump didn't drain the swamp like he promised. If he really does want to drain the swamp, there's a lot more rot than I think he realized. I think he also took a lot of people into his group that were working against him, directly against him. He didn't know any better. He's a businessman, not a politician. That being said, I think he's learned a lot. I still think he works for the globalist, but like I said, he's the best globalist New World Order option because he wants America to be in control of everything. And so at least that keeps some semblance of freedom going here in North America. So that's why I'm for Trump. I don't think he's innocent. I just think he's the best of a bad bunch. Same with Pierre Polyev. He's not innocent. He is no good at all, but he's the best of a bad bunch. I prefer, we've got the People's Party of Canada, PPC, which is really unfortunate because people like me with dyslexia kept saying CCP at first and causing some confusion in chats. But now that I got it straight, the PPC, led by Maxime Bernier, he does not have a single seat in the House of Commons because they're so dirty in the House. Everyone's dirty, and everyone is working for higher masters that do not care about the Canadian citizen. My hope this coming election, Pierre Polyev will be Prime Minister. My hope is that we can take some of these Liberal and NDP MP seats and give them to the PPC. I would really like to see that happen. That being said, likely it won't happen. And we're just going to keep going down the same path we're on right now, just at a slightly slower pace, so that the sheeple don't wake up. Smoked Out Prods says the main thing Trump did was slow government spending. Yeah, it ultimately failed when COVID cost $6 trillion, but till then he slowed the spending, and that's exactly it. Trump did the best he could to make sure that America was on top for the New World Order. Linda says, I think the deep state is working to bring one world government to set up for the Antichrist. Well, and again, yes, thank you. Again, yeah, in my opinion, from the research I have done on my own and with others, I think the deep state, which may or may not be the alternate government in Mount Weather, but I think the deep state is just one of the globalist factions, and they are all working with the Mystery Babylon religion as their basis. And that's very scary. If you don't know about the Mystery Babylon, go check out Mighty Meat on Rumble. He's only on Rumble now. YouTube doesn't like what he talks about. So Mighty Meat on Rumble. I'm with him Tuesday nights at 5:30 Pacific or 8:30 Eastern. And we have been covering the Mystery Babylon, which is the alternate religion. I believe it started right with Cain. Well, it started with the snake in the garden. I do believe in God. I do believe the Bible. So that's how I'm in my head. This is how I'm seeing it work. I don't know if you believe in creation or something. I don't know where you would figure it came from. But the point is, the Mystery Babylon is a religion. It is the alternate religion that every secret society in the world has been based off of, from any nation, not just American, not just Western. We went through it all from the dawning of the earth, and right now we are just getting into America and how it was usurped in its foundation. And the Mystery Babylon series looks at it from the perspective of the secret societies and how they work throughout the world, controlling the world. And then the Mystery Babylon series is another one of Bill Cooper's works. So I figured I better start reading his book and see what his information is in the book regarding America and how America has been usurped slowly and steadily. So when you're finished, you need to go hear Celeste Solem. Ex-government left when saw what the government was doing. That name sounds familiar. I will go and look, Peggy. But that name sounds familiar. I think I may have already looked at some of their stuff. But I'll check it out. So in the meantime, that was chapter 5. And that was pretty scary because we're seeing, like, again, these are things that were happening, so many decades ago, so many presidents ago, and it was already put in place. There's a reason Gen X is the forgotten generation, the apathetic generation, because we saw that it had already been usurped. We saw that everything was already rotten, and we saw that there was absolutely nothing we could do to fix it. So why bother? And that is the Gen X position, or at least it was. We are finally at a moment in time where Gen X can stand up. We are in positions of power throughout the world. We can make a change, and we can maybe not stop this new world order, but we can slow it down. We just have to do what we can, where we can, within our own lives, affect change by sharing information, affect change by helping in your local government, getting on your city councils, affect change in your own immediate area. And if we all do that, There's a lot of us. We can make a difference and we can slow this thing down. Again, I don't think we can end it, but we can slow it down. And we need to do that. So, yeah, rah, rah, sis, boom, bah, go Gen X. But yes, research. Do your own research. And don't believe everything I read out of this book. Take it with a grain of salt and then go discover for yourself who you believe. Just as an aside, at the end of this chapter, he does have sources. So we've got bureaucrats get ready for a presidential order from Spotlight, Washington, D.C., July 27th, 1987. I believe Spotlight was a magazine. From Pell and Eve, The Backbone of Hidden Government, from The Nation on June 19th, 1989. Pollock Richard P. wrote The Mysterious Mountain in The Progressive, March 12th, 1976. Sinkin and Lanny wrote Democracy at Risk If Covert Bill Passes, Another View. That was the Los Angeles Daily News, September 19th, 1990. Weekly compilation of presidential documents from the Office of Federal Register, National Archives and Records Administration, Washington, D.C., 1950 to present. And the Whit Howard paper, Lawyers Press U.S. on Martial Law Plan, from the Chicago Tribune, August 15th, 1983. So those were the sources he used in this particular chapter. Next chapter is number 6, HR 4079 and FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. So we learned a little bit what we could about Mount Weather. Tomorrow we will go into, or not tomorrow, sorry. Next. Oh, and there's another thing. Thank you, Cynthia. I will check that out in just a second. Next Wednesday, I cannot do this. Unfortunately, my pain doctor, whom I was supposed to see yesterday for my shots, ended up having emergency surgery over the weekend. So he had to cancel, and the first available appointment was next Wednesday. So I will not be doing this next Wednesday. I do apologize. The following Wednesday, I will pick it up again. Same bat time, same bat channel. But unfortunately, I need my pain shots. So we'll have to miss next week. But when we come back 2 Wednesdays from now, we will tackle FEMA, which will be very interesting. And again, we have to keep in mind, this book was written in 1991. We're in 2024 now. There's so much that has gone on since this book was written. It's scary. All we have to think, all that can possibly have happened by now. You know, it's scary. So we got to keep our eyes open and be aware of their tricks. And hopefully, I can continue to help you do that with reading this book. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for being here with me. And I will see you next Tuesday with Mighty, or 2 Wednesdays from now here on my own channel. I am also streaming a series that my church is doing right now. It is at 4 o'clock PST, which would be 7 o'clock EST, every night until I don't know. I can't remember. There we go. Yeah. I start, thank you, Shenny, 3:50 p.m. Pacific time. I don't know if you're interested or not. I am always interested in learning more about Bible prophecy. I figured if I streamed it, there would be a nice live chat that we could all discuss the things as they were spoken of. If you're interested in Bible prophecy, feel free to join me. And like I said, that's 3:50 every night for the foreseeable future, or at least this week. At either 4 or 7, depending on your Pacific or Eastern time. I love you all, and I will see you all this afternoon for part 5 of the prophecy series. Thank you so, so much. And where is my outro? Here it is. Love you guys.
Topics change from day to day. Science, art, or history's play. No path to twist, no trail to Some ancient lord of future dreams, every question finds its gleam. Wherever she goes, answers will follow, into the depths or up high in the hollow. Curiosity calls, she's ready to find solutions to everything on her mind.